misery loves company. They don't want to say, you know what, you go do your thing beyond deen, I'm going to indulge in XYZ. It's too much for them, to their ego. So they'll get you to join them too. And there's a lot. We're going to talk about evil eye, influence, shaitan, all this.
Maybe he's told you to do something in a bad tone or something, and now you're really annoyed and you had this argument. But you know, if you take a step back, is this a good man or not? Does he care about me or not? Is he kind to me in general or not? And then you have a better view on what's going on. Consider the impression you will leave your loved ones who you're communicating with about your spouse.
Wow.
If you run and tell your mum, bruv, about what your missus is doing wrong, she's going to be annoyed by that. And she's going to have an impression of your wife now. And this is something I've kind of held to myself throughout the problems that I've had in my life is this. All right. So I was on the Ali Dawah show. Okay. I had this crazy story, bro. All right. And I felt like there was a lot of benefit that was discussed. However, the content didn't get aired.
It didn't get aired.
We were controversial, mate. It wasn't good. All right. The attitude was a bit off that day. Anyways, I want to talk about it because I think it's very relevant to halal bros, very relevant to positivity in marriages, very relevant to trying to maintain that positivity and bring the ummah back together again. So let's talk about it. I'm going to butcher the story, mate, but I'm going to give it to you. All right. So check this. There was a message that came in from a sister. All right. She talked about how she was advised by a good friend of hers, and or it may have been a cousin or something like that, not to have intimacy with her husband on the first night. Okay? What the hell? I know. Right. Okay. Why? Apparently, the justification for such an advice was that you don't want to come across as easy, or you don't want to come across as someone that's just going to give it up, and you don't want to make his life easy because then he won't respect you. Bearing in mind, this was a good Muslim guy, according to the sister's own account. He had paid the mahar, and the mahar wasn't cheap. I think like 10K, right? He had given her gold as a gift, 3, 4, 5K, however much. It was in the case, okay? And he, in general, was a good guy who was patient, spoke to the wali, did everything right, and was doing everything the right way and put in the work to marry her, okay? To which the question bears, when the friend gives the advice of you don't want to come across as easy, my question is, what part of that for the guy was easy? What part of that was easy, mate? Now, this is the introduction. I want to talk in general about bad advice from people and not letting negative vibes into your relationship. Because it just so happens that this person giving the advice, as I've understood it, has actually had bad experiences in her relationships and bad experiences in her marriages.
You're saying the person that advised this newlywed sister not to give it up.
Correct.
Okay.
Bear in mind, this sister's happy. She's in love.
The newlywed.
The newlywed.
Absolutely.
Happy in love, loves the guy, hasn't said anything bad about the guy, so there's no whataboutisms. Everything's good and gold. But the point that we're talking about today is bad advice from someone who was already burned. Okay? And now is almost kind of giving bad advice back to the sister who's actually in a really great situation. Good guy, mahar, gold, boom, bam, bim. Everything's good. That's what we're talking about today. Bad advice from people that you shouldn't be listening to begin with.
So there's 2 sayings, bro, that I want to remind the viewers of. Number 1, hurt people hurt people. And number 2, misery loves company. I guarantee you that sister that's been through a lot, maybe she had bad men in her life, but I have a seething, loathing contempt for sisters that are unhappy because they've been through XYZ in their life, and they go to somebody completely happy, completely unharmed, completely having the best lifestyle possible, and they will try to make them bitter and miserable too.
100%. And you know, this goes beyond just marriage, bro. This goes even in regards to everyday sins. If I see you're on your deen, right? And I see, let's give an obvious sin, drinking alcohol, okay? If I see that I'm somebody who drinks the occasional bottle of alcohol or can of beer or whatever, and you're someone who doesn't, right? You are now a reflection to me of everything that I'm doing wrong. So a lot of people who do some of these sins, they will actually try to bring you down with them. They'll try to encourage you to be more like them. Say, hey, come on, man. Like, don't be a party pooper, mate. Get involved, have a drink. It's not that bad. Allah will forgive you, blah, blah, blah. And I've used alcohol as an example here. That sin could be anything. It could be checking out girls. If you're a married man and you're with your boys, and the boy is also another married man, and you're two married men, and one of them is like, no, I lower my gaze. And the other one is like, come on, man, we're guys. Let's check out girls. Let's talk about it. Boom, 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 boom. This isn't good. This can be negative. Sometimes it's unwilling. Sometimes it's just like you're just in the moment and you're just talking. But the bad part about that is really when one of the guys is like, "Nah, bro, I'm married. I don't do that. I just like to lower my gaze." Okay. Then the other one starts to say, "Hey, whoa, come on, man. It's just a look. It's not a big deal. Why you killing the vibe?" That's when it's bad. Now, if that guy turns around and says, okay, you know what?
Respect that.
My bad, bro. I should have respected that. I didn't think that. Usually they don't. Usually they're gonna push a little bit. Some people will. Some people say, my bad. I didn't realize that's the wave. I don't want to kill your deen, bro. Like, you good for you, man. Encourage you. And say what I'm doing is wrong. What you're doing is right. But what we're talking about today is those kinds of people who don't do that.
Absolutely. And most people are not like that. They like to bring you down, so it makes them feel like they're not down.
100%.
They don't want to say, you know what, you go do your thing beyond deen. I'm going to indulge in XYZ. It's too much for them, to their ego. So they'll get you to join them too. There's a saying too. It's like, if there's a group of 3 or 4, it's like 2 people are not in agreement, except that the third will soon follow them too. So it's very difficult. It's kind of like when I'm here trying to look at the logo and I'm like, you know what, bro, I like white and black. It's clean, They probably already know the logo. It's clean, inshallah. Now, you and then Amar and all these other brothers that clearly might have better experience with color palette and this and that and marketing, you guys are like, no, it's like, it looks better this way, neon pink. And now, inshallah, we're going with that, right?
Inshallah.
But it's like, it's like, for me too, I didn't just be like, oh yeah, you guys are right. I had to like think about it. I'm like, all these people are, you know what I mean, thinking about this. Let me look into it. Or classic example, bro. One guy's trying to, eat a little bit clean. The other one's trying to, experience life and enjoy. And he's like, let's go have dessert. And the other man's like, yo, I don't want to do dessert, bro. You gonna back out? That's what he's gonna say. He's gonna.
When it comes to this dessert thing, bro, that's me. I can't even lie.
Boom. I've been having dessert too now with you, but there's a lot, and I want to essentially start off with saying problem number 1. And there's a lot. We're gonna talk about evil eye, influence, shaitan, all this, but simply put, if anything happens in your marriage, and as a woman, you are not solving this with your husband. I'm not talking about things where he's taking his rights over you, he's oppressing you, he's physically manipulating you or affecting you. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking simply there's a disagreement or anything. And you run to the girlfriends. You run to your mom. You run to anyone else instead of talking to him. What you're going to do is you're going to slander his name. Number 1. And you guys are going to make up, I guarantee you. And inshallah, when you do make up, you in your mind, you're past that. You've forgiven him. But the people, the community is still going to look at him as that. So now, every single time anything happens, they're going to be like, oh, girl, you've been putting up with too much with him. Girl, you could do better. Why is your husband always like this? So you've slandered his name, number 1. Number 2, you're actually not fixing the issue. All you're doing is just gossiping. Number 3, evil eye. There's many issues. That's why I completely loathe people that in a marital setting, they go run to their friends or to their parents. This doesn't mean you don't keep your parents involved if you're actually getting oppressed. I'm not talking about that, bro. May not care. I'm talking about the actual situations where things are good and you're going to other people too much. I think that can actually play a very negatively consequential role in the marriage, in the happiness and the stability, and also just protecting it, bro, from extra viewers in an evil eye sense that don't need to be seeing it, bro.
100%, bro. And, as well, like, I think sisters know. Look, here's the thing. You're going to have those kind of fallouts, arguments in your marriage, guys and girls, okay? Guys are going to get peed off, you know what I mean? The girls are going to get, triggered, whatever. And, you're going to have that knee-jerk reaction in that moment to go and run and tell someone to get off your chest. Bruv, my missus, she was doing that the other. Can you imagine it, bruv?
Just a vent.
And yeah, here's the thing. And then the sister will also do this. Oh, check this out. This sprays a waste man in it. Yeah. So that's going to have that. You're going to get that knee-jerk reaction. Okay. But here's the thing. I feel like if you take a moment, again, we're not talking about the abusers here, male or female. We're not talking about the manipulators here, male or female. You kind of know if you take a step back, if your husband is a good guy or not. Is he a good guy? Maybe you're annoyed with him. Maybe you had to argue with him. Maybe he's told you to do something in a bad tone or something. And now you're really annoyed and you had this argument, But if you take a step back, is this a good man or not? Does he care about me or not? Is he kind to me in general or not? You know what I mean? Is he loving towards me in general or not? If the answer to that is yes, he's a good guy, or yes, she's a good sister, man. I can't even say she's bad. Yeah. Then listen, my best advice is at the minimum, if you're emotional, keep your tongue for 48 hours. Hold your tongue for 48 hours before you run and tell anyone. Ideally, wait longer, but I'm giving you a short-term solution to what could be a problem. You know what I mean? So this is a quick thing that you can implement.
Wow.
Right now in your marriage, if you have an argument, hold your tongue for 48 hours before you tell anyone, whether you're a guy or a girl.
As in, if you have to tell them, and you're going to tell them anyway, just wait 48 hours. Because there might be a chance what happens within that 48 hours?
You might calm down. You might, that inclination to go and tell someone might be an emotional reaction. So sleep on it. You know what? Give her or him an extra day, and sleep on it again. And if it's still really that bad, maybe it's something really bad that needs to be spoken about. And most times it doesn't, But let's just say, because if we tell sisters and brothers, just hold your tongue forever, this is going to call giving them a tall order now. I'm giving them a tall task to follow. So it's going to be hard to implement in their life. How if I just say, wait 2 days, now we got something we can work with. That you can hold yourself for 2 days, just 2 nights, just hold it, And more than likely, you're going to wake up the next day, you're going to have your breakfast, you're going to get the dopamine hit from your food, you know what I mean? If you're hanging out with me, I'm going to encourage you to get some cookies and snacks. By the way, FaiyadFit, soon to be FaiyadFat if I have my way, mate. Talk about bad influences, mate.
Boom.
Comes to that dessert and that carrot chai, I'm a weapon, cuz.
Yeah, bad influence, fellas.
I'm a bad influence. You see my stories, French toast, are you mad? Nutella and caramel, are you mad? Anyway,
creme brulee, mad.
Are you mad, cuz? Listen,
bro. Not only is he making me FaiyadFat, there was a brother by the name of Amar, who Allah Mubarak, may Allah bless him, but he's been through some changes in his life recently. He kind of lost his appetite. I ain't never seen Amar eat like this, bro. Hey, one night with Danish, boom.
My man with heavyweight by the
If anyone's out here trying to dirty bulk, we got Coach Danish over here, inshallah, who's gonna help you dirty bulk no matter what.
Cuzzy, I'm the dirty bulk king. I dirty bulk when I'm not even working out this week. Do you know what I'm saying? Now, inshallah, stay in your fitness, guys. That's a whole nother episode. Anyways, I'm teasing. I'm being tongue-in-cheek. Listen. So my point was, wait 48 hours. Let yourself calm down, relax just a little bit, and then you have a better view on what's going on. And just think about another thing I want you to consider the impression you will leave to your loved ones who you're communicating with about your spouse.
Wow.
If you run and tell your mum, bruv, about what your missus is doing wrong, she's going to be annoyed by that. And she's going to have an impression of your wife now. And now when everything's... And vice versa. And if you're a sister and you run and tell your dad or your mum about what your husband's doing, they're gonna have an impression.
They don't want their baby girl oppressed.
Because they love you. The same, they don't want their boy, the mum don't want the boy to be oppressed either. You know what I mean? Don't want her son to be oppressed either. It goes both ways. But now when everything is all blessed up and you're like, you know what? It's all cool and you're all sweet again.
You got the makeup
into and that, everything's all sweet and nice. You're drinking hot chocolate together and that. Now you got to go to one of your family houses for dinner. Now your mother-in-law looking at you funny. Now you feel like rubbish. You're like, I shouldn't have told my mom that. I feel bad. No, mom, no. Now you gotta go play fix. Oh, mom, dad, I swear he's a good guy. I was kind of overreacting, and they're like, yeah, okay, yeah. I heard that you overreact quite a bit, actually. So
don't give them that ammunition to begin with.
Don't give them that ammunition to begin with, mate. You know, so try that.
But bro, what about these people they're not running to people, but you got the misery vultures. So the misery vultures are basically going to give unprovoked advice to an unoppressed woman, making her think she's oppressed, or to a man and doing the same thing. What do you think about these misery vultures? What is their psychology? Why do they go and pick fitna for everyone's marriage?
So let's get back to this story that I told at the beginning.
Absolutely.
So not giving intimacy with the advice was to not give intimacy to your husband on the first night, to not make it hard for him. My question is, what part of all of that marriage process was easy
for him?
For him. And for her, but
tell me if this is the story that you're talking about, because I heard a similar story, right? I don't know if this is exactly what you're telling the viewers, but there was a woman who was a Zania. She gave herself up to premarital intimacy with a bunch of men, thinking that, they were going to marry her or this and that, and they all left, and they all didn't respect her, and then they married like a proper woman. And she would go and tell women, when you're in nikah night, do not give your husband this. Sister, you're like, with all due respect, we all have, our journey, but come on, you're having intimacy with the next men running through dunya, and now you're giving a happy girl who prayed istikhara. He prayed istikhara. He paid the mahar. She loves him. Everything's good. It's taken care of. You're taking your hurt from jahiliyyah, from not making the best decisions yourself, and now you're telling him, or sorry, you're telling her, oh, watch out, don't let your husband have halal intimacy with you, he's not going to respect you. And now not only is she disobeying Allah, she's disobeying him, all because of a friend. Look at that sign, bro. I'm not talking about the physical sign. I'm saying look at a sign that we just got. Allah allowed that to happen, guys. This is not a joke thing right now. Did you hit that? No, did you knock it over?
Bruv, this is not something I do in every podcast and we have to cut out all the time because I'm constantly doing
So it just fell.
But it is, oh my
God. Fellas. That was a sign, no pun intended. Do not be running your mouth about your marriage. And for the misery vultures, talk about that, bro. I want you to go into a little bit of the psychology while I fix the sign. What is the psychology of the misery vultures? Why do they actually prey on the young and impressionable?
So here's the thing, bro. Look, I'm gonna give it to you like this, all right? When you're having a good life and everything is going well for you, okay, you now become a reflection to others who are not having that good life. You are highlighting to them all the things that went wrong in their life because of all the things that went right with you, if that makes sense. Another reason not to air your good deeds, not to air your goodness, not to go on social media as a relationship couple. Don't air none of that. Keep that on the DL. Evil eye is real and these misery vultures are real. So when you start to highlight how good your life is to someone, they want to see you fail so they can have that, you can be stuck in the misery with them so that they're not lonely. Misery needs company. Okay, so that is the main thing here with regards to these misery vultures and why they're doing it. You're a reflection of everything that they're doing wrong in life and everything that's gone wrong in their life. So they want to bring you down with them so that they don't feel alone. So they can make excuses to themselves at night and say, see, I'm not the only one, it's everyone. And they can feel better about themselves. That's what's happening there. I want to take a sidestep and talk about sinning. It's the same sort of thing. When you're trying to be on your deen, on the right path, and you're trying to do something halal and avoid certain sins, some of these people, they want you to engage in the same sins as them, so that for the very same reason, they can make an excuse that they're not so bad. You're just like them. Everyone's just like them. It's okay, Whereas if you're trying to do things the right way, you are a reflection of everything that they're doing wrong in life, if that makes sense. I'm going to give you a very good analogy. It's a good analogy that I got from my best friend, okay?
I don't know about it.
Imagine everybody has a white...
Can we do a name drop?
I'm not sure if they want a name drop.
Shout out to...
my brother from another mother. He already knows.
That's it, bro.
He already knows. My brother. Okay. So I'm not sure if he wants a name drop, so I'm going to keep my mouth closed, but that's my brother. Anyways, so... here's the thing, right? Imagine we all have white shirts, okay? If you have a white shirt, right? what happened is, if you've fallen into sin once and you've done something wrong, okay, let's say you've made zina, let's say, it's like getting a piece of dirt on your white shirt. Okay? Now, the
Is it
question...
a big stain? Is it a small stain?
It's just a stain. And everyone can come and see that you have this stain. Or sometimes you know you have that stain.
Wow.
And you have to look at that stain every day in the mirror. Now, here's the thing, right? Let me ask you, Faiyad, how do you think you can hide that stain? How can you hide the dirt on your white shirt?
Washing it.
There's that. And there's also covering your white shirt entirely in dirt. Why?
So it turns black.
No, because now it's supposed to be dirty. It's not even dirty. This is just normal. If I acknowledge that this is a piece of dirt on my shirt, I'm now acknowledging the sin I've done. I now have to look at myself in the mirror, and that's a hard pill to swallow. I now have to go make tawbah, and some people, that's difficult. Whereas if I cover my whole shirt in dirt, I've now normalized the sin, and it's not a big deal. Sin is not such a big thing. Why are you living in 1400 years ago, man? Oh, why are you living like that? Oh, you take things too literally. Listen, Allah forgives, and this and that. And now you're knee deep in the sin. Your shirt is entirely covered in dirt, but it's cool because this is what's normal. And you hang out with a bunch of other people who indulge in the same sin, whose shirts all look the same as yours. They all look the same as you. All their shirts are dirty like yours. And you think to yourself, okay, well, this is just normal. This isn't dirt. This is just what's supposed to be. This is just normal. However, then you bump into a sister or a brother who doesn't have that dirt on their shirt. Their shirt is pearly white, as a matter of fact. They've never done nothing, okay? And they take pride in that. Or maybe they keep it quiet, but it's quite apparent. These are sweet, innocent souls, okay? When I look at that white shirt, that is now the reflection of how dirty my shirt is and how bad it's gotten. I can't ignore it now because I'm not surrounded by people covered in dirt. So what's the solution here? I want to get dirt on your shirt too. So that reflection, that what's blinding my eyes and telling me how dirty this is, how wrong I've been, and making me bring all these feelings of guilt and making me question my choices in life, I can now eradicate that by bringing you down with me, making your shirt just as dirty as mine. Does that make sense? And now we're back to normal. This is normal. You having that pearly white shirt and never having done these types of sins? No, that's not normal. That was when you were the odd one out. Now you're normal like us. You've normalized it more and you create that kind of encouragement. If you've ever met someone that tells you, come on, you don't drink, come on, you don't do zina, come on, you don't do this, gamble, whatever the sin is, riba, come on. They're trying to hide how bad that they've got with this particular sin. And they're trying to get the dirt onto your shirt. Does that make sense? Have I explained that well?
Bro, wallahi, you got $1 million mind. And that's an understatement, bro. Allah Mubarak. Don't want to praise you too much, obviously, because we got to keep us in check.
And I go for my mate anyway.
Imagine after all that.
Yeah.
Well, Allah Mubarak, that was brilliant, bro. May Allah bless him and may Allah bless you.
I mean.
Because how many people do we know? They're genuinely suffering and they're hurt. It pains them to look at themselves in the mirror. And usually instead of patterning up and fixing your life, they want to ruin other people and bring them lower just to feel better about themselves.
100%. And that's exactly what this is. So
what's the solution now? Let's say this person, they can't really cut off their friends, can they? They can't really cut off their parents, can they? Many times it's the closest ones to us that are misery vultures. Do they check them? How do you check them? What is your advice before I go in?
You know, interestingly enough, I thought you were talking about the person with the dirty shirt. I thought you were saying, what's the advice for them?
It is. What's the advice for them?
No, I'm talking about, you've asked me about the person with the pearly white shirt who's trying to stay away from these people.
First we want to advise the person that's actually trying to be on the right path.
Cool.
Trying to be on point, but misery vultures are coming for them.
Right.
We'll give the advice to the misery vultures anyway, but I think that's a deeper thing. They need more change. The first person, they're already on the haqq.
Yeah.
They just need to learn how to establish boundaries. But I don't even want to say my answer, bro. You go in.
Boundaries. I'm quite keen to hear your answer. However, if I was just to kind of freestyle off the top of my head, just trying to think about this, what advice would I give to someone?
The newlywed girl.
The newlywed girl, you got to cut all outside voices, mate. You got to cut all outside voices. You got to look at people whose marriages reflect that which you want. People that have good manners, good religion, good deen, are on the same path that you want to be on. And these are maybe older, wiser, someone sometimes Someone you know has the best intention for you and hasn't been scarred too much already in their past, if that makes sense. Someone a bit older, wiser.
What's the problem with the scarring though?
Even the people who have love for you, if they're scarred a bit too deep, sometimes they can't see, they don't have that self-awareness to know that what they're doing is that they're trying to cover their shirt in dirt and get your dirt dirty, your shirt dirty too. They don't have that self-awareness, and they could be speaking out of love, but they just don't have the self-awareness to know, I have bad things that I've done. I have things that I've done wrong, and I don't want this person to go down the same road as me. It's too big of a pill to swallow. It's too hard to comprehend. They maybe been traumatized. Perhaps something bad has happened to them. Sometimes it's not necessarily something bad you've done. But when we talk about emotional scarring, it could be a trauma that's happened to you. And in which case, that can be very hard to digest and to acknowledge. So be very careful. Look at the person who's giving you that advice. How sound in mind are they? How patient are they? What's been their experiences? I'm very keen to hear your advice on this one, my brother.
I think that, and I always tell brothers and sisters, is when you put boundaries, you're actually putting boundaries with people because you want to keep them in your life, not remove them from your life. If you wanted to remove them, you wouldn't care. They overstep, boom, you walk away. But you put boundaries because you love them and you have love for them and you care for them. But with these people that are the newlywed archetype, right? They're simply just trying to enjoy life, just going through halal, everything's fine, right? And they have these misery vultures. Number one, I always advise them, have a conversation with them. Genuinely. Have a conversation with them. Tell them that, you're doing a little bit too much. You're giving me unprovoked advice. I think this is as far as you should take it. It's very easier said than done, especially when it comes to brothers. For sisters, it's a little bit of a sweet spot. They're usually emotional, but they have to. Because at some point, it becomes satanic. Not in like a ritualistic sense, but it's pleasing shaitan more than it's pleasing Allah. And we can't uphold that as Muslims, can we? So it gets to a point where you have to do your part. If there is no conversation that's making due diligence and progress, then step 2 is distance yourself from them. Now, the varying degrees of distancing is going to depend person to person. There is no one size fits all pill. So either you abstain a little bit from them, you limit association unless absolutely need be. When they hit you up on your birthday, obviously for those that celebrate birthdays, we shouldn't. They hit you up on your birthday, they hit you up every now and then, okay. They see you at family gatherings, okay. But it's like you don't let them get too close to you. Or to an extent, a greater degree, I would say, where you simply have no choice but to cut them off. Now, this isn't in a way where it's like, as Muslims, we shouldn't hold grudges for more than 3 days, I'm sure, right? As Muslims, we don't just do that. But if they're genuinely overstepping into your life, into your business, into your work, into this, into your marriage, they're not listening. They're literally causing fitna. It's haram at this point, right? You should not be with them in their company. Simply put. Number 3, and this will be one of the best things, it'll be one of the most difficult things. You must be always making dua for their hidayah. Simply put. Because if Allah can take a completely blackened t-shirt and make it pearly white, and He's the creator of the heavens and the earth, bro, you really think this little girl, this little boy can't be changed, bro, by Allah? Of course, just make dua. You don't know whose dua Allah is gonna accept to give you a little bit of a personality change, bring you to the right path. So simply put, don't despair in the mercy of Allah. It's a big sin, right? To think that Allah can't help us. Keep making dua too, side by side.
That's really deep, bro. I want you to say the first one again, because actually it was the first time I've ever heard it, other than when you told me the other day. But I've heard it for the first time from you, which is,
if I make boundaries with people, it's because I want to keep them in my life, not because I'm trying to push you away. Many times people think boundaries are because, oh my God, you hate me, or I hate you, or this. Why is this person so strict? Why is he so up his behind? Why does he always put boundaries? Many women, bro, unfortunately today, when their husband places boundaries, right, they're like, oh, that's a red flag. That's toxic masculinity and this, that, and the other. Sis, he's trying to keep you in his life if he has boundaries. Because he's telling you these are the conditions to keep you in his life. Or would you rather cross them, toe to toe, not know, and then catch yourself in a situation where he says, you know what, I'm going to walk. I can't be with you anymore.
Instead of just up and leaving, he's communicating, or she is, whoever else is.
Boundaries are a healthy way to convey, this is what I expect for you to stay in my life. I don't think boundaries are bad. I think boundaries have a very bad connotation associated with control. If somebody has control issues, I'm not talking about that. Generally, boundaries are to be in a point so that your girl or your family or anybody stays in line so you don't have to be controlling. Because there's only two scenarios, bro. Number one, you're spineless. Or number two, you're controlling. We don't want to be either. A spineless one doesn't set boundaries because he thinks if I set boundaries, they're going to leave anyway. No one can uphold them. I'm not that guy. So he doesn't do anything. The control issue guy doesn't set boundaries, or I would say sets too many boundaries. And there's no free range of motion now. Whereas the smart man sets boundaries of things that are absolutely like clear cut. And then there's things called wiggle room. You can make a concession here and there. It doesn't make you weak, bro. But simply put, boundaries are because you love them. I know it might sound paradoxical to the untrained ear, but if I actually didn't care about you, I wouldn't set boundaries with you.
100%.
I'd let you do whatever you want to do. And when you cross a boundary that's not established, then I leave. But that's not fair, bro. Which is why a lot of couples, they bicker instead of just communicating. Love, you did this. I don't really like this. Instead of, you never do this. But it's like, when was that communicated?
Amazing. Yeah, I wanted you to say it again because you're absolutely right. To the untrained ear, it may sound paradoxical at first, but when you kind of think about it a bit more, you just realize that makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense, and it probably saved a lot of relationships had that been done properly and implemented, and those people had that knowledge previously. Great. So we've given the advice to the person who has the pearly white t-shirt, let's say, or is trying to at least, maybe not a pearly white, everybody has their own sins and things like that, but they're trying to stay away from the fitness of misery vultures, as you put it. I want to give some advice to anyone who finds themselves in a situation where they've done the sin. They've got that that piece of dirt on their shirt. Okay. Sometimes, let's say you've done zina, you had a drink, whatever it is you've done. Okay. And now you're inclined, you don't know how to accept it, you don't know how to digest it, and you're about to find yourself going down this road to normalization of it. Best thing I can give you, and this is very hard to do, is to look in the mirror, acknowledge that you've made a mistake, acknowledge the dirt on your shirt, acknowledge that it's wrong. It's a battle scar now. Guy or girl, it's a battle scar. And sometimes you just need to walk it off and accept when you've done wrong. And that guilt that you feel is a blessing from Allah. It's that blessing from Allah because it's a prompt to you to be better. It's a prompt to you to not do it again. And it's a prompt to you to make dua for tawbah, for forgiveness, and for ask Allah to forgive you your sins. And if you go back to Allah, Allah will, what's the saying? You walk to Allah, Allah runs back to you. So you have to acknowledge, as hard as it is to what you've done wrong, acknowledge that you can't undo it, and you have to accept it, move on, ask forgiveness, and consider that guilt that you feel as a blessing. Now, if you go down the road of normalization and you stop feeling that guilt, that's when things get rough for you.
Because there's a saying where someone was asking a scholar, like, Sheikh, I just don't pray, and I know like we should pray, otherwise we don't feel close to Allah, but I actually don't pray, and I don't feel far from Allah. Like, I don't feel anything. And he's like, Sheikh, like, what's wrong with me, And the Sheikh said, that is your punishment. The fact that you are far from Allah and you don't pray and you don't feel anything, wallahi, that's scary. Because you're living a life that's leading you to the fire. I'm not saying you're going to go to the fire, but it's leading you to the fire. And if you don't feel anything about that life, that's a red flag, bro. That speaks more volumes than if you were to do something and feel negative implications. If you feel nothing, that is the punishment, bro.
100%. And we live in a world nowadays where it's like everyone is trying to optimize how much happiness they feel and how many dopamine hits they're getting. Okay. And to feel something bad and to feel bad about something, feel guilty, it's like, no, I can't accept that. I can't deal with it. I'm trying to run away from it. I'm going to find something. I'm going to eat. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Whatever it is that your coping mechanism is, I twisted my tongue there.
Peter Piper picked a
pepper. Anyways, whatever that coping mechanism is, you're using to hide away from the pain, actually acknowledging the pain, letting the pain burn a little bit and learning from it is actually much more useful. But the society we live in today is encouraging this culture of I need to be happy all the time. that's how a lot of people actually end up with a lot of built-in trauma, mate. We can talk about this in another podcast. These are all very deep type subjects that we're touching on a lot as we go along this one topic. But dealing with trauma, dealing with bad things that have happened to you in your life is its own 10 million hour podcast, mate. So one advice I would give you, and what's kind of served me well in coping, not necessarily coping, but learning and growing and actually being able to move on from things, is I call it the I haven't got a name for it yet. Let's give it the candlestick. The candle method. That's my name for it now. Okay, which is this. Sometimes when something bad has happened to you, or something's gone wrong, or something you feel bad about, trying to brush it under the carpet is just going to manifest worse things for you in your life. Bad personality traits, bitter people. It's going to make you bitter. It's going to make you negative. It's going to create things where you're dealing with things in very bad ways. Okay, and it's going to have an effect on who you are, your personality, and all kinds of loads of negative effects that you can't even think of. Maybe affect your future relationships, which is one that we hear very often. People who have had bad experiences, then their experience can affect their future relationships. My best advice to you is don't brush it under the carpet. Hold the candle in front of your hand and watch the flame burn through the candle. Let the candle wax go over your hand and burn. Watch the candle go all the way to the bottom. Eventually, that candle is going to run out of wick. It's going to run out of fuel, and it will disappear. After you've done your tawbah, after you've asked forgiveness, you've reflected on it deeply, you've accepted what you've done is wrong, and you've tried to move on in a healthy way, you've let it burn all the way through. You haven't brushed it under the carpet. That fire cannot go on without the wax, without the wick. So it will go out, and you will be a better person. You will be a softer person, softer in a good way, and softness and heart person as a result. And that would be my best advice.
And this is your advice to the misery vulture?
To the misery vulture, or someone
on a personal level.
On a personal level,
yeah.
Or early on.
Now, what advice would you give to the misery vulture as they catch themselves in situations where they're vulturing or preying on the unsuspected, bro?
Listen, this vulturing and preying isn't something that it's not something they oftentimes are even conscious of.
Cognizant, absolutely.
They're doing it without even realizing.
Why is that?
Because like I said, they've brushed so many things under the carpet in their life. They haven't let the candle burn out. And now all these things under the carpet are basically like these little monsters under the carpet. You're seeing the bumps underneath, and you're just ignoring them. And they're going to cause problems in your home. They're going to cause problems in your mind, in your heart. And you're not going to realize what problems they're causing until it's too late. So my advice to those people are, it's not as simple as, when you see yourself doing it, because you don't even see yourself doing it. And here's the thing. This is not step number one. This is the advice you have to give, actually. Apologies, may have had a bit of a cut there, but let's carry on. So you don't know if you're the misery vulture or not. So my advice has to be very open-ended to all people watching this, which is to reflect.
Oh, as in they themselves could be a misery vulture, not knowing.
Exactly. The misery vulture doesn't know they're the misery vulture. So you as an individual have to reflect onto whether or not you're a misery vulture or not. And you need to reflect on all your behaviors in your life. And if you're somebody who's watching this again, who's saying, it's not me. It's going to be old Joe and Bob down the road, old Fatima and Abdul down the road, mate. It's not me. It could very well likely be you, and you're that guy now, or you're that girl now. The misery vulture, by definition, doesn't know that they're the misery vulture and assumes that they're not the misery vulture. So if you are that misery, if you are thinking to yourself that it couldn't be me, now it's more likely that it could be you, mate. It's more likely that it could be you just by you having that thought. So it has to be an open-ended advice to everyone, which is reflect on your behaviors throughout the day, reflect on how you communicate with people, reflect on your life, review your life, have and ask forgiveness for the things you've done wrong, and forgive yourself for the things you've done wrong, and forgive yourself for the bad things that have happened to you. This is a whole other podcast all about trauma. One more thing I'm going to leave it with here in terms of this trauma, and there's going to be something I want to talk to you next. If you don't have anything to say on this, I want to ask you about intimacy on the first night of your wedding, of your marriage. But one more piece of advice I'm going to give you regarding any trauma or any kind of bad thing that's happened to you in life, and this is something I've kind of held to myself throughout the problems that I've had in my life, is this. When anything bad happens to you in life, you have two choices. You can either let it make you a worse person. You can let it break you and make you bitter and make you horrible. Or you can let it soften your heart. You can let it make you a better person. If something bad happens
Can you
to
give an example of both?
Okay, you got, I don't know, trying to think of a very...
Let's say you're young, your dad ups and leaves you one day.
Okay, cool. Great. You can let that make you bitter towards people, bitter towards men, bitter towards father figures, bitter in life, upset with everything that's going wrong in your life, blame it on everything that's going wrong in life. Why is this happening to me? This isn't fair. This isn't right. Why me? And that can make you a very negative person.
And now you got trust issues with all men.
Now you got trust issues with men. This is what can happen.
SubhanAllah.
Or, alternatively, you can let it make you a more empathetic person.
How?
You can reflect on the pain of others. You can think, you know what? I want to make sure in my life I don't let other people down. And I just want to make sure that when I'm a dad, I don't do that to my son. I want to make sure that if I ever meet someone who's had a similar trial to me, I'm going to be there to support them. If I meet a boy young my age when they lost their father, whatever, I'm going to try and be there for that person and support them in any way that I can. And I'll be able to understand that person more than other people can understand them. Because those other people, they won't understand me and they won't understand him or her like we understand each other because they haven't been through it like we have. So I have been given a unique opportunity through this pain to empathize with someone, to relate to them and to comfort them in ways that maybe other people can't comfort them. And they don't understand what they really need. They don't know what that person needs to hear. That thing that they need to hear might just be, I love you, man. Yeah, I'm here for you, man. If you ever need anything, give me a bell. You know, that could be as simple as that. So that pain you've gone through, think of it as a blessing. Think of it as a benefit. You can now use that to help other people. So any bad thing that happens to you in life, don't let it break you and make you more bitter. Let it soften your heart. Let it make you more caring towards others. Let it give you the ability to empathize with people that have been through similar things to you. And that's what I'd have to say in terms of dealing with trauma, bro.
Powerful.
Yeah, man.
Very powerful.
Yeah, man.
Is there anything you wanted to say before we wrap up?
Bro, I actually wanted to ask you about, I don't know if this is for another podcast, mate, but I wanted to ask you about on the first nights of marriage.
Completely different podcast, bro.
Completely different podcast?
Completely. But at the very least, I will say this. It's supposed to be a weird time. You've never seen them. You've never touched them. You've never smelled them, hopefully, right? I know some dirty smellers out there. Experience it for the first time. You and her, and if you're a sister watching this, you and him, completely nervous. It's completely normal. Experiment, explore one another. It's supposed to be difficult, but don't have as much pressure on it. It might take a few days. If it's the first time, especially, right? It's okay. But it may take a few days of not waiting for it because you don't want him to respect you or disrespect you. I should say it's to be working towards it. Might take a few times to kind of break it in and get the mark, you know? But we'll definitely talk about that in another future episode.
Sure.
In a nutshell, bro, would you have anything to leave them with if they're both the misery vulture or the person that has the unstained pearly white shirt, bro? What advice would you give them generally? Let's say you're talking to both with one advice.
Bro, I think we've covered it. I think the best main takeaway is always reflect on your behaviors, reflect on who you are. Sometimes have the difficult thoughts. Let the difficult thoughts sit in your brain a little bit. Let yourself feel the guilt and reflect on it, you know, and forgive yourself. Forgive the others around you, and yeah.
And it's obviously easier said than done because many people, they've been through so much.
100%.
They claim that, you know, they're above reflection, but that's just an excuse, bro.
And if you really need someone to talk to, if you can't handle it by yourself, go find someone to talk to, but don't brush it under the carpet. Don't let it affect you and your personality. Forgive yourself, forgive others around you. What about yourself? Do you have any closing thoughts, my brother?
I would say make dua to Allah to grant you high level of awareness and self-reflection. Many times we do things in our life where we ourselves are blackening our shirt, so to speak, and then we wonder, why did Allah not give me this intellect or this awareness or this enlightenment? You don't have insight in your life, perhaps maybe because of you. Everyone is born, inshallah, with freedom of at least action, right? No one's forced to do things, generally speaking, right? I'm sure someone's going to be watching it and be like, oh, what about that person born as a Uyghur Muslim and this? May Allah make it easy on them. That ain't you though, right? Because you're watching this video having your Doritos. So the main message is, regardless of who you are, never stop making dua to Allah to give you more enlightenment, to give you more awareness. And one thing I could tell them, there's been times in my life where I went to the masjid for every single prayer of the day, 5 prayers a day, and I went there for days. That did something to my awareness that nothing else in my life ever did. You don't need a psychedelic. You don't need all the things dunya tells you and claims to give you that enlightenment and awareness. Allah, that's it. And with that being said, inshallah, hopefully they can stay tuned. Maybe the next episode, bro, we're going to talk about the V card, the most anticipated topic of halal bros, inshallah. But if there's nothing else, bro, inshallah, close it out.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Boom.